What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Ask A CISSP podcast, which is a complimentary podcast to the other side of the firewall. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, and then Friday we talk about everything else. But on these special episodes, they're more interview style, where I get to talk to somebody who is either supporting the community or has something to bring to the audience that's beneficial, right? So this is the second one of the year. So you guys are being extra spoiled 2 weeks in a row. This time around, I have a person who actually we have several things in common, right? So he is a fellow Air Force retiree, he is a PMP, and he is also 4-block alumni. So please meet Justin Cook. How are you doing today?
Outstanding. Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, no worries at all. I appreciate you coming on. So this is actually only the second time we've met. So we actually met in 4-block. You were one of the instructors, so you got to teach me some stuff about how to retire, not be so cranky, get into the job market. So I greatly appreciate that. But we have a mutual friend. So Jeff Lodick, good friend of the podcast, one of my mentors for probably the past 8 years, suggested that we meet and talk about some of the initiatives that you have going on. So to get the ball rolling, I would say, let's find out a little bit more about Justin Cook, like who you are, your origin story, and what you're currently doing.
Perfect. No, thank you. So Justin Cook just recently retired out of the Air Force, out of SOCOM. I was very fortunate to retire as the Senior Enlisted Leader for J6. So the Communications and Cyber Directorate there at SOCOM. And I really kind of felt like I was not going to get a better assignment to retire out of. It's pretty hard to beat that. So I felt as though that was going to be the end of the road for me, and what a way to go out on top, in my opinion. A lot of time in the Air Force I had spent in light, fast tactical communications, so in combat communication squadrons, and in the regular squadrons that I had spent time in was in Korea. So again, a lot of kind of that tactical mindset. Did a lot of executive communications for both CENTCOM and SOCOM. So learning a lot about how to ensure that communications and transport was up anywhere in the world for whoever that particular principal was. And so pretty much the rule of thumb was, if you were in a seat somewhere, plane, train, or automobile, you were providing transport to that principal, so that way they could accomplish that mission anywhere in the world. And so again, a very gratifying mission that taught me a lot, not only about leadership, but really about how to ensure that all of those systems are up and operational, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so again, very gratifying. With me retiring here just at the end of last year, I was very fortunate to be picked up by a DoD service integrator, where the mantra is trust first, solutions driven, mission obsessed. And that is RedSky's core attributes. And that really fell in line with a lot of my Air Force ethics, values, and morals. And so it was a really good fit for me to come over and work for Miss Carol Monroe at RedSky, where I've found myself as the Director of Strategic Growth and Technology. And what I do is I spend a lot of time trying to solve those hard problems for the DoD and agency customers. And so again, it fits perfectly with more or less what I was growing up doing in the Air Force, solving those hard problems. And so now I just get to do it in a different uniform, more or less polos as opposed to, uniforms. So it's been a good transition.
Right, absolutely. So I believe, I did a little bit of LinkedIn snooping. So you spent more than half your life in the Air Force. So, thank you for your service. I greatly appreciate that. Before joining the Air Force, where are you from, and kind of what led you to join?
Yeah, so I grew up, or I can say with most affinity, that growing up in Southern California, so seeing a lot of the stuff out of Palmdale and Lancaster, where the F-117 and the SR-71 and all of the skunk works, I was absolutely fascinated with just seeing all of those aircraft. And it really kind of led me on my journey to joining the Air Force and wanting to contribute to, seeing those planes in the sky was just absolutely fascinating to me. And so growing up in Southern California kind of led me down that path. Joined in 1998, shortly after high school. And, never looked back. So it was a great opportunity and a great ride. 24 and a half years in the Air Force. So
24 and a half years. Wow. That's a very long time. Not to age you, right? I'm not that far behind you. When I hit 20, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
yeah, it seemed to go
Exhausted.
by way faster than what I probably deserved. And again, just constantly moving, like I had described, just made that time go by really fast. So very, very grateful.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good to see that you're still helping those who still serve, right? So like not only did you contribute your service, but now you're helping those who are currently active and doing their thing. So again, can't thank you enough. What initiatives are you bringing here today that we kind of, I know there's a couple, so which one would you like to start with?
Yeah. So what is super interesting being here in Tampa, as long as I have been, I've seen kind of an ebb and a flow, if you will, of cyber talent. And with all of these companies moving down to Tampa, we've kind of noticed maybe a drop in cybersecurity professionals and cyber professionals, period. And so it's been really interesting to see, and especially post-COVID, how folks are transitioning from being in a brick and mortar style building to being hybrid. And then now what do we do to bring our best foot forward into industry? And so something that we've been working on, myself and you had mentioned Jeff and several other colleagues, are working on how to make Tampa a cyber center of excellence. And that is really starting with the educational system. RedSky is working with the K through 12 there in Hillsborough County, along with a couple of other contractors. And it's been really rewarding to kind of see the spark and to kind of see that bright light going off with these folks. Really in high school is the last one that we did, and seeing them run a capture the flag and how they can secure their phones and all of these different things. And so that's been really interesting to see. What that ultimately led to was some folks coming out of the White House, coming down here to Tampa to see if Tampa can fulfill a cyber center of excellence to help fulfill cyber gaps. I believe at the last number we heard was 700,000 cybersecurity professionals are going to go unfilled this year. And so
Right.
how do we fix that?
Right. And we preach that as well on the other side of the firewall podcast, that there are so many vacancies and there's just a shortage of talent, right? So it's getting those butts and seats. It's finding, like you said, kids in high school and college and kind of filling the pipeline up so we don't have close to 1 million vacancies. So I think that's an awesome initiative, as well as it kind of serves the audience of both podcasts as well, right? So we have men and women of color who make a very small portion of cyber in general. Like I think when we started the podcast, it was 7%. Now we're up to 9%, which is still not representative of the population, right? So I think this is definitely a great initiative. It's good to see that the White House, because there has been a lot from not just this administration, but the past 3 administrations trying to build that pipeline, trying to get more people into cyber, putting that money into CISA and the Department of Justice and what have you. So if Tampa could be that one of those centers of excellence as well, to match a Miami, an Atlanta, Dallas, that would be awesome, especially for those of us that they live here, right? So it's good to see.
Absolutely. To see what USF is doing, University of Tampa is doing. So many of these great schools are really putting their money where their mouth is, and to really help out the local community, I think is just absolutely fantastic. So.
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of talked a little bit about it off the air, and I didn't want to. I call it burning material when people get too. Oh, wait, let's save it for the show. So you're saying there's some initiatives that RedSky was doing to help people into potentially pursuing education, certification, things of that nature when it comes to this type of program.
Yeah, absolutely. So along with building those partnerships here in Tampa, we have been working with CareerSource Florida in order to help with the Get There Faster grant. And the Get There Faster grant is helping those that are coming out of the military with about a $7,000 grant to get those certifications. There are some other stipulations in order to get an additional $5,000. So what we have done is we have partnered with a unbelievable company, and ATA and RedSky have more or less done a partnership in order to really streamline this, get their faster grant. So what we've done is we pretty much have all of the paperwork done for you. It's just a matter of you telling us what your interest is, whether it be cybersecurity, whether it be something that is going to benefit the cyber, I'll call it the cyber industrial complex, for lack of a better term, but really getting you in there and making you very marketable. And so that $12,000 will help you get those certifications, to help get those vouchers, but that's in concert with CareerSource Florida. So RedSky, ATA, we are ready to help you today in order to get those certifications, make you very marketable, and get that experience that everybody is looking for in order to get those high-paying jobs.
No, that's great. So with that being said, who's a good candidate? So because I know people are probably listening like, this sounds very infomercial, like so there's no sponsorship, I'm not getting paid for it. Like literally it was, hey, I got a message from Jeff like, hey, I think Justin should come on the show, he has some stuff to talk about. So I'm not being funded by any of this, but I want to get more butts and seats. So I was like, that's perfect. Like I think it serves the audience well. So if someone is listening to this, are they going to share it, or they plan on sharing it with friends, family, things of that nature? Who is because there's no such thing as a perfect candidate, but who is a good candidate? Like, what are you kind of looking for, and for the most successful jump into the field by following this, I guess, path, so to say?
What an amazing question. And the reason that I say that is I would say that you cannot pigeonhole yourself into saying, hey, I love cyber, so I need to go down that path. Some of the best cyber professionals that I have met have come from the defense, law enforcement, maintenance, all of these different backgrounds that maybe you might not think that I am that perfect candidate. But I would say that just that mindset and that willingness to go after some hard material, because I'll be honest, it is a challenge, but there is not necessarily somebody that sits in that perfect puzzle piece in order to become a cybersecurity or a cyber professional. Like I said, there were folks in law enforcement, folks in maintenance. All of these different diverse backgrounds really can make an amazing cyber professional. So some of the things that we have done is really gone after as wide of an audience as we possibly can. And maybe you were hurt on the job. Maybe you're not able to be in that particular field that you were in before. So this gives you another amazing opportunity, a very high paying potential job. And so that perfect candidate, I would say, is somebody that is willing to work, willing to study, willing to learn, and willing to be mentored. That mentorship piece in this field is unbelievable. And it's one piece where I really feel so much gratification, because it seems like everybody is willing to jump in and help. So, two parts, kind of a long answer to that short question is there's not a particular field that is a perfect candidate, but that perfect candidate is really willing to be mentored and do some hard work.
No, that's a perfect answer, actually. And we've talked about it in the past. So not this year, because I've been kind of busy with the transition, right? Like, so you feel my struggle, like trying to go from being active to being civilian sounds easy. It is not, especially if you spend I spent half my life. You spent more than half your life. So I can only imagine it just gets harder, the transition. But what I'm trying to do is do more of the Ask A CISSP throughout the year, because I think it does bring in a different side of the audience, people who want to hear that long form podcast and more of an interview, as opposed to the topics of the week, which, like, please don't stop tuning into that. I'm just saying, like, this is a compliment to that. But with all that being said, last year, so the year of the pandemic, which feels like it was 3 years, but that year and the following year, I had people on the show who were making that pivot. Like, we had one guest, Tisha Harper. She was a flight attendant. And as we all know, when COVID hit, everything shut down. and she decided to pivot. You know, she had some interest in cyber, and now she's a security engineer, right? 3 years later, with her own podcast, as well as we had a few more people who were pursuing educational certification, which again, that debate goes on to infinity, right? Like, which one's better? Education, certification, experience, yada yada yada. The answer is all the above. So I'm glad you brought up the mentorship, because that plays a humongous part within cyber, because a lot of people not necessarily confused, but they conflate IT with cybersecurity, right?
Absolutely.
They marry well. However, they are different paths to making a business do what it does, right? So with that being said, is this program for both IT and cyber, or is it a mixture of, or is it complement more of one than the other?
So when I look over the grant, it really does talk about just eligibility. Enrollment into Amazon Web Services, CompTIA, Microsoft IT related certifications.
There it is. Okay.
Training programs to include cost of associated certifications. And so it really does kind of give that wide net for folks to get in there. And, you know, what an amazing thing that they're doing for Hillsborough County. And I do have to preface that, because right now, Hillsborough County is leading the way for this. And so if you are a resident for Hillsborough County, this is absolutely for you. And so that would be the only kind of puzzle piece that you do have to fill on this particular one.
No, that's still excellent. So I would say, so Hillsborough has to show up and show out, because I live in Pasco. So, like, you know, it doesn't quite cover my area.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Hillsborough does a good job, I can see it definitely casting a wider net. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you did mention that it's not just cybersecurity, it's also IT. So, you know, 2 years, almost 20 years of IT experience, right? Only half of that being in cybersecurity. So it takes all kinds. So if you want to start your journey on cybersecurity and then maybe move over to IT or vice versa, or do a mixture of both, this may be the program for you to get your feet wet. So that's definitely awesome.
Absolutely. You know, I think that just to go back on that mentorship piece is between RedSky and ATA. There is so much mentorship in that veteran space. I can think of 6 of us right now that have transitioned within the last 5 years. So a lot of this information is very relevant in order to really speak to what's going on in those problem sets for whomever is getting out, you know, today or really a year down the road. I know that I try to stay as current with all of the DoD funding sources as well as the career source, Florida funding sources. So again, it does go back to that mentorship. And you had mentioned that, you know, Hillsborough is kind of putting their money where their mouth is. They are the 7th largest education system in the nation right now. And so it does make a lot of sense why Hillsborough is putting a lot of that money out there.
I actually did not know that. So I just learned something new. And I've lived here for 7 years, right? So
yeah,
I did not know we were in the top 10. So no, that again, that's an awesome initiative. And then you did mention veterans as well. So I have met a lot of people who are in the process of thinking about separating, but they may have a job that's in logistics or supply or law enforcement. And they're like, well, how do I get into cyber? So this is a venue for you, right? This is your foot in the door. Like, definitely use TA and things of that nature as well to help you before you transition. But for those of you maybe trying to do that pivot on your permissive or terminal, which I see a lot, then this may be the route for you to go to get that leg up. So
100%. No, that's a great point. You know, 24 months is kind of that sweet spot to where we need to be talking to those folks that are getting ready to pivot out. It does take 24 months to kind of get everything squared away, lined up, to really figure out what is going to set you and your family up for success. And, you know, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but a lot of it came down to those hard conversations with my spouse, making sure that she was bought into this. Something that I would absolutely pass on to all of those folks that are getting ready to get out is have those hard conversations with your spouse, because some of this is going to require some long and intensive studying. Not that it's any different than the traditional college experience, but I will tell you, when the spouse is bought into you studying for these certifications and knowing when certification day is or test day is, man, it makes that transition so much easier. So yeah, great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like definitely the 24 months. So I mean, I would like to say 2.5 years of preparing for the transition, and it's still hard. So not to scare anybody, if you feel like your time of service is up and you want to leave to pursue something else, definitely pursue that. But you need to work just as hard at your transition as you worked on anything else in your military career, because it is no joke. Whether you do 4 years or you do 24 years, you will definitely have some challenges, so to speak. Like nothing is impossible, but you will have some days. Like I said, I'm about 4 months out. You're slightly ahead of me, and there's some days where I'm just like, I
Absolutely.
don't understand how to civilian, and I was a civilian for half my life before I joined the military.
Absolutely. Tampa is one of those great places, though, where there are so many military members here that, again, we kind of all put our arms around each other and say, hey, let me give you my experience. But it goes back to that willing to be mentored piece that makes such a good candidate, here in the Tampa area. If you're willing to be mentored and willing to listen, man, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. So
Yeah, and
Tampa's a great place.
you're definitely an expert in the space, right? Like I said, we met during my time at 4 Block. So 4 Block is one of those organizations that helps military members transition. They put you in front of really large companies with hiring managers that kind of walk you through the process of writing your resume, interviewing, networking, which is paramount when it comes to your transition, especially the longer you've been in, the bigger your network needs to be, right? Because you've lost contact with a lot of your civilian peers, and now you have a huge pool of military that you can lean on as well. So I definitely appreciate that, and then having you on here to also express that. So like you're doing amazing things in the community, especially for veterans, but not solely for veterans, right? So I think that has to be brought up as well. So definitely, if you were out there and you are thinking of making that pivot, or you're not even in the military, but you want to make that pivot into cyber or IT, like this is the person to talk to. Like this is someone that you should meet on LinkedIn and make that connection. So definitely, all of his contact stuff will be in the links. So I'm going to grab a ton of information from you to include a mugshot, right? So I can stick it on the so people know who's going to be on the show. So with all that being said, like you're doing a lot of huge things for RedSky, for 4 Block. What are you doing outside of that? So we always get into this conversation where like to be in the IT space and cybersecurity takes a lot of study, it takes a lot of time, but play hard, or work hard, play hard, right? So what does Justin do to unwind? Like what do you do outside of this space?
It's almost embarrassing to say, but I truly am a nerd. So studying a lot of what's going on within the industry. I am a huge technology guy, and so just really understanding what's going on. Yesterday the WWDC with Apple, it was so interesting to see their Vision Pro, right?
I'm so excited.
I'm telling you,
I'm so excited. My kids
just
are like,
things like
that's never going to take off. I'm like, no, I have to have one.
Yeah.
I know which one you have to sell in order to buy this product.
I know, right? I mean, just thinking about that immersive experience and the things that were really kind of getting in my mind is, okay, so now I can utilize this as a work tool. Now I can utilize this as a relaxation tool. Now I can utilize this on the plane, in the car, all of these different things. The only disadvantage that I would say is maybe it'll cut you off a little bit, which I don't like, because I like being involved with my family as much as I can. And especially with my grandkids, my granddaughters, they're absolutely amazing. And so that would be the only downfall that I would see to that. But man, thinking about just the upfront and personal ability to get in there and do the training. And then all of a sudden you can go watch this unbelievable movie in HD.
Right. IMAX in front of your
Yeah.
face.
How cool is that?
Truly amazing. So you talked about supporting special operation forces. So I have a little bit of experience myself, right? I worked with Jeff and the Joint Communication Support Element, and I traveled
Nice.
a lot. And you would not have imagined how many times I would be there in front of something beautiful. And I get it. It's all about being present, being there. But there's so many times I was like, I wish I could capture what I am seeing with my own eyes so I can relive this, right? Like
Absolutely.
being on Mount Etna in Sicily. Like if I had that pro vision on my face, I could have took some amazing photos. So I'm super excited. Like I think that that's the future of VR as opposed to like the MetaQuest 2 I have sitting over here collecting dust, right? Because I'm also pretty nerdy. Like so we got that thing and we don't use it.
What a great point, though. I think about all of the pictures that you took when you traveled. I spent a lot of time in Jordan and a lot of time in Korea, and just to go to those places that people saved their entire life to go to Petra, to go to the baptismal site of Jesus, and then to be able to share that in that virtual experience, man, what a cool opportunity that's going to be to really give those crystal clear pictures and to be able to show that to family, as close as what that's going to be. So super excited about it.
It makes me mad at all the photos I did take. Like I'm thinking about it now. Like so Israel, I'm floating in the Dead Sea. That's a cool picture, but how much cooler would it be if I had the pro vision
Absolutely.
goggles on, right?
Absolutely.
Like I think it's going to change the game. I think obviously it'll be us early adopters, and I say that, and it's going to take a lot of convincing in order for me to purchase that product. But it's going to take us in order to make that thing affordable, right? Like we have to go out and purchase it, and then one day it'll be a reasonable price. It'll be like buying a cell phone,
Absolutely.
as opposed to I think it's like $3,500, which I'm just like, but I want it though.
Yeah. I don't know. $3,500 is going to be tough to come up off of, but
it is. But I don't see it coming down in the near future, right? Like the Max headphones are still pretty pricey, and they didn't even make a second version of that yet because they're so good where they're currently at. And if this
$500,
thing,
I think.
yeah, if this thing functions the way that they advertise, they won't have to make a new version for a few years.
Absolutely. So the other piece to me, I think that absolutely fits so well into this is I'm a huge sports nerd. And so between basketball, football, and hockey, think about those immersive experiences and that vision as well. I was thinking about it yesterday. What is that going to do for ticket sales? Is it going to decrease ticket sales when you can see that immersive experience right there? You got Terrell Owens or whoever catching that ball and seeing those amazing catches. And I only bring up T.O. because he's got one of the best catches in NFL history.
Right.
So to see that in that immersive experience, how cool is that going to be? I don't know. It's going to be a challenge. So NFL and NBA and NHL are going to have to step up their game in order to kind of combat that.
Right. So I can see like we're going off on a tangent, but this is my bread and butter. This is what
I'm with you.
I have to think this out loud. I think they can charge for those experiences. Like I just went to the movies with all three kids to see the latest Spider-Man. Amazing.
Nice.
I don't know if you've seen it yet. You don't have to be a Spider-Man fan or a fan of comics. Like it's just an amazing movie altogether. But I say it to say I spent a lot of money. The movies are not cheap. However, if you charge me movie prices to strut this thing onto my face and view it, I would still pay that. Like I would pay because it's like buying a television, right? That's how much it's going to cost. It's like buying a TV or a very expensive computer, but you'll have it for years. I would pay, like to go to Beyonce's concert, but be in my own home, like with spatial audio. I'd pay Beyonce tickets to not have to leave my house and deal with the crowds of people. But I guess we'll see. There's a lot there, right, to unpack that they could do with this device and make it unique to each individual, right? Like you can have your own personal concert or your own movie experience, but you're still not shuttered from the world, right? It's not like the Oculus where it's blocking everything.
Right.
Like literally, it augments your reality. So it just makes things
Ryan, you are speaking my
possibly
language.
better.
So concerts, man, there is not much better for therapy, for whatever you want to call it, but going and seeing those concerts. And, until you brought it up right now, think about those immersive experiences that these people are going to be able to charge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go see Lionel Richie in August, and I am beside
Mhm.
myself to go see Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind and Fire. But those tickets are already sold out. So how do we help, or how do we get that in front of all of these cyber professionals? Because they understand it, because they understand what it took to get that, the audio and the sound and that immersive experience to be able to see Lionel Richie, maybe on his last tour. Man, I hope not. But man, just thinking about that, because that's my next big one coming up, to have that really cool immersive experience. And I'm not going to tell you what I paid for them tickets, but it will be a slight trade-off for
Right,
those
right,
tickets versus that Vision Pro.
right. But it's so, and I think that's also a thing, right? Like I know there's legislation going in to stop the resale of tickets because that's ridiculous. It's the bane of my existence when it comes to buying new tech, because I'm sure that's going to happen with this, and also with buying tickets to anything. Resellers are they're evil. That's
Yeah,
like I get making your
absolutely.
money, capitalism, all that good stuff, but there's no way you should be charging me 2.5 times for the thing you
Right.
just purchased, right? There has to be some sort of restriction. So this, I think, would even help that, right? Like, do you want to go see the concert live, or like you said, is it sold out? But we have these individual, provision tickets that you can buy at a premium. You
Right.
still won't be paying, what you paid for the Lionel Richie concert, but I think that instead of like they filled an arena, now they can fill an arena plus several more hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the space,
Absolutely.
and that all goes to the artist or whomever. So I think it's a good idea. So
Man, and to bring this back full circle, is we're talking through this. Think about all of the opportunities within cyber, within encryption,
oh yeah,
within transport, all of these jobs that are going to be created just based off of that you just talked about, being able to put that around the world in that immersive experience for all of these cyber professionals that are going to be out there. Man, I never really thought about that until you just put that into context. All of these jobs are going to open up because of things like Vision Pro, to be able to have those immersive experiences. And then how do they create that ticket or that experience, to one, to be able to watch it live, and then two, to make sure that it's not out there being pirated or whatever the case. So how do you
right.
put that value on that?
But you have another million vacant, so add another million vacancies on top of
Right.
the 700,000 you just spoke of. So more
100%.
opportunity to get more people in butts and seats, right? So no, so I thank you for walking down that road with me, because I'm trying to talk to my kids about it. They didn't want to hear it. They're
Well,
like,
what
"Oh,
is
you're gonna
what
look
is
so
their
dorky in those." Look,
what's
I'm gonna
their
be in my
passion though?
house.
I mean, everybody loves sports in some way. So take your love of sports and now take your love of cyber, and man, you marry them. Whew, you got somebody that's going to just absolutely knock that job out of the park.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just and any of the new experiences that come out, like so my youngest, so my older two, they tease me because they're medical field, right? Is what they're
Okay.
heading towards. They're both in high school. Next year I'll have a senior and a sophomore in high school. Blows my mind. Both of them are going down the medical track, so their clinicals are starting. They're taking their advanced classes and what have you. But the youngest, he started Roblox summer camp today. He,
Nice.
he was so excited. So it was, he took pictures of him sitting in front of the PC. He had his instructor in front of him. It's a very small class, so he gets individual attention, all that good stuff. But not only do they teach them how to work within the system, how to a little bit of scripting, right? It's beginner to intermediate, but then how
Right.
to monetize. So an 8-year-old who has a passion for playing the game is already learning how to make merchandise for his game, right? So just imagine that same path for this new device, right? Like, what will they be able to create and monetize? Like, it's opening up all types of possibilities for both content consumers and content creators. So I'm extremely excited.
I just love the fact that these young men and women that are so immersed in, like you said, Roblox, man, now that wheel is already turning. How cool is that? We're starting so early with these young men and women that are going to be truly, one, inspirational, and two, they're going to take us beyond what we thought, what we've seen in the last 20 years.
Mhm.
So congratulations. That is awesome. I'm excited to hear how that young man does
Oh yeah,
in
he's super
that
excited.
camp.
And the instructor was also pretty like, so it's the proud dad thing, right? You guys, you got to talk up your kids. But just the glow in his eyes, he started, and then it starts with the instructor like, hey, play my level. He plays the level, and he's like, hey, do you want to learn how to make this level? And then he asked my son to open up the editor, and then my son's already building, and he's just like, oh, wait a minute, you already know how to do this? Like YouTube, right? YouTube Kids taught him how
Yep.
to already the building blocks. So he went from here's the basics to no, here's some ideas for level design. Like, maybe that wall is too tall. Like maybe make it shorter. It can help, uh, players understand the geometry and what have you. So I say all to say, lots of content. If this thing does jump off, like I think it will, like again, I get it's crazy expensive, but like you said, you're gonna have the cyber piece of it, where it's gonna create almost a new field, uh, as well as now you have content creators like potentially my youngest, if he sticks with it, right, who will grow up in this arena, and then they'll be building the tech of the future, right? So like I'm
Man, I
pretty
can't
excited.
stop smiling on this side just thinking about it. I can hear the conversations getting ready to happen. Man, where's my Vision Pro? You already know it's going to be a young man's room because he's going to be up
Not
there
for thirty five
coding.
hundred dollars. Put that back where you found it. But
But
no, that's
Dad,
awesome. So, yeah, hopefully it does take off. Hopefully it does become cheaper sooner, because like even for therapy, like you talked a little bit about that as well, like with veterans coming out of the military, like you may not feel like you want to go see somebody, but now that somebody can come see you, right? So there's all types of implications, right? And different ways it can
100%,
be used. So I'm pretty excited. Um,
100%.
but
Man, what a great point. You just don't have the energy or the ability to get out of the house that particular day. And don't conflate it, don't confuse it, but I think that human interaction is extremely important. But
oh
there are
yeah,
absolutely days, maybe you're sick, whatever the case, and maybe that just pushes you over just to make yourself feel a little bit better. So man, what an amazing point. Thank you for bringing that up, especially in the veteran space. Anything that we can do to help them, man, what an amazing opportunity that'll be.
yeah. I think there's a lot there. So we'll see. Like a year from now, we'll be talking about this on within the goggles. I
I,
hope.
I love it. I love it.
So we will
Yep.
see how that all goes down. But before we wrap it up, I always like to ask a question at the end, right? So I know you've been on a few podcasts recently. I've been seeing your name pop up, thumbnails, all that good stuff. So I definitely thank you for gracing our podcast and bringing this to our base as well. With that being said, though, what is like if you were me? So let's you were the host of the podcast. I'm you. What's something that you were like, man, I wish somebody would ask me this, whether it be on topic or off topic or what have you. But what's something you were like, man, I really wish this question had been asked, or I really wish um, someone had asked me about this because I have something to say about this. And it doesn't even have to be that impactful, but what's something that you would ask in my place?
The whole thing with cyber is, what is it that motivates you to get into the career field? What is it that inspires you to continue to do this job really well? And I think when you kind of take those two questions and you have those in mind, it makes it really easy to get up and do this job each and every day. And Simon Sinek said it really, really well, of what is your why? So if I was sitting in your seat, I would ask, not only whoever is on the other side of the microphone, but your particular audience members, what gets you up in the morning? What I would argue that, between 6:30 and 8 is the hardest time of everybody's day, just trying to get up and get going, that first cup of coffee. So what can we do in order to make that just a little bit easier? What inspires you? What inspires you to take this technology to the next level? And when you can find that, it makes that 6:30 to 8 so much easier. And then the second thing is I am absolutely motivated by my grandkids to see what are they going to have to find out or figure out in the technology space. So my motivation is to make sure that they are armed and equipped with whatever the latest and greatest technology is in order to make them smarter, to make them more knowledgeable in whatever it is that makes them happy. And then how do I make this technology available to as many people as we can? That motivates the unbelievable just mess out of me, because the more that we educate, the more that we put this knowledge out there, the more that we make it readily available to underserved, underprivileged in those spaces to where, hey, maybe they didn't have that opportunity. Man, that motivates the crap out of me as well. So how do we get it out there? How do we make it better? But what is it that motivates you? My motivations might be different, but if you could ask what inspires you and what motivates you and really solidify that to get you started out of the gate, man, that's where we start making unbelievable strides in technology.
Awesome. Well, Justin, I think I can't end it any better than that. So I greatly appreciate your time. For all those who are listening, definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. These episodes usually go up on Thursdays. So if you're listening to this, it's probably on a Thursday or later. However, just keep tuning in to the podcast Monday through Friday. Hit us up by the social medias that go by our name. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, and Twitter. And where can they find you, Justin?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, and I am Justin L. Cook 1, I believe. I will make sure that I get that for you. I know that I had to change it just to make it easier.
Gotcha. And the link will be on the bio as well.
Perfect.
Because I didn't mention that. You also didn't send me a bio. So there's that.
Perfect. But no, I try to make myself unbelievably available here in the Tampa area. Whatever I can do to help benefit Tampa Cyber, or, whatever knowledge I've got is absolutely open to anybody and everybody. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I want to make this industry motivational and inspirational for sure. Make it easy for you to get up in the morning. Ryan, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great talking to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been an amazing show, and you're an amazing person. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for the kind words.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Definitely continue to tune in, listen to us, follow Justin so you can hear him on other podcasts as well, or just shoot him a message so that way you can make a connection with him. Stay safe, stay secure.